Welcome to your October Talking Circle. Can you believe it's already October? Mid-October even. So welcome. This is your first Talking Circle of your third grant year. That's the other part that is kind of amazing. You're already in your third grant year. So very exciting. We'll kick off as usual with our standard disclaimer of fun. This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. All right. Now that you're officially disclaimed, I know you all feel much more ready to engage in your talking circle. So today we are going to, of course, touch upon two of the big things coming up on the calendar, which are APR updates and budget revisions. But we'll spend hopefully the bulk of our time talking a bit about program services and then wrap with a couple of upcoming events that I want to make sure are on your calendar. And of course, we are joined by your trusty program officer, Bianca Williams.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to year 3. I think time has flew by just thinking about when we started ACE and the planning period and getting our budgets together. And, now I hear all the great stories of, the services that's being offered to students. So we did it. And, you guys are doing amazing work out there. And I'm so happy that, this program's really helping your communities. With that being said, everyone should have received their GAN for their new third year. Make sure you read those conditions. There were a lot of grantees that had missing audits. So you have a time limit on that. Indirect cost rates. I feel like more than half of the grantees, your rate expired on the 30th. So you should have a new one, or September 30th. So you should have a new one coming in, our extended or updated agreement, if so. And yeah, if there's anything else that was needed or missing, that your GAN for your continuation award will kind of spell out what's needed in those due dates. So make sure you look over that. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me so I can talk you through it. And, we'll talk about our budgets and including any remaining funds from year 1 and 2 into this new year 3 budget with plans on spending everything this fiscal year. We were super lenient this go around with it being our first year of implementation with budget cuts. But this third year, as you all know, we have the 3-year and then the 2 continuation. So this year is like a renewal year where your budgets and carryovers will be looked at a lot more. Any cuts that they can make, they will be making this year, basically, to say the least. So make sure that we have good plans and good budgets that we're submitting next month to make sure, we can spend all those funds this year and, definitely share good services or, service providers to help other grantees spend their budgets as well. There were a lot that had, pretty large available balances that were carried over. And again, that doesn't mean that everything that was from last year should stay in the same line items. We do want to make sure that we can, spend it. So don't feel like you're stuck with what was last year. We are, everyone's required to submit a new budget on November 17th. But yeah, we'll be talking about that later. Thank you all.
All right, so as was alluded to, there's a couple of things that you have due coming up. The first of which is an APR update. I did send out a calendar reminder for this yesterday, to which I got a couple of responses that I want to make sure that if this was what you thought, I clarify for you. It's a calendar reminder. It is not a meeting, so there's nothing you have to attend. It's just so that it will pop up on your calendar on the 27th, reminding you that that's when it's due. Also, the title is APR updates due today, not because it's due today when you receive the email, but that's the name of the calendar reminder. Again, so that when it pops up on your calendar, it reminds you it's due today. Oh no, turn it in. Although all of you will have turned it in advance, so it won't be a dilemma, I know. But that is what was sent out to you. If that's not helpful to you, decline the calendar invite. It is totally fine. I will not be sad about it. I don't keep a list of people who decline my calendar invites. It's not like Santa. So if it's not useful to you, decline it and move on with your day. Totally fine. But I had a number of people who said that would be helpful. So we did send that out to everybody. So that's what that little email was about, was just a little reminder. The other nice thing about the reminder is that if you click into that calendar invite, the form that you need to do your APR update is actually in there. So if, say, you wait a week and then you look at your calendar and you think, oh no, it's due this week, you can just open that calendar invite and find the form that you need. So that's my one little plug. And then if you're trying to figure out, am I supposed to be doing this? Answer these couple of questions. Did you report 999 for some or all of the measures in Section A of your APR? If you did, then you need to submit an APR update, okay? So if you look back at your APR that you completed in April and there are any 999s in there, you need to do an APR update to give us the data for those 999s. Because remember, 999 is just code for, I don't have it now, but I will have it by the end of the grant year. What about if you look at it and you realize, oh, I submitted an incorrect number or a number that needs to be changed or updated in Section A. So basically, maybe I made a whoopsie. Well, in that case, you need to submit an APR update. This is your one and only opportunity to correct that whoopsie. If you don't do it now, then that incorrect information sticks as your answer. Okay, there's not a way to change it after this. Now, if you look back at your APR and you think, all my data is correct, it was all complete, I didn't use any 999s, then you do not need to submit an APR update. And what I would ask is that instead, you just send an email and say, my data is correct and complete. I will not be submitting an APR update. That way I know that that's what you have actually selected to do, not that you're running a little late or that the email got waylaid somewhere, okay? So if this is you and you don't need to submit one, just shoot a quick one-sentence email to let us know so that we know to mark you off the list that we're not waiting on anything from you, okay? Those are due October 27th. But of course, you can always turn them in early. That is totally allowable. You're going to be emailing those to oie@seiservices.com. Copy Bianca, but please don't send it solely to Bianca, because then you're giving more work to Bianca, because then she has to stop and forward the information to the OIE account, because we're taking all of that and compiling it. Okay, so don't add more work to Bianca's bucket. Email it over to the OIE account. Remember that you do have to update any measure that you reported a 999 for or incorrect data. Those that you have complete correct data for, though, you can exclude. And you're just going to be using that Ed 524B Section A form. And we can pop that in the chat for you as well. And then again, it's also in that calendar invite I sent you. Final reminder there is that if you did not complete the optional Section C tool in your spring APR, we do highly encourage you to go ahead and complete that and submit it as part of your APR update. That is information that we're using to be able to collect data across grantees. And so you don't want to be the grantee that doesn't have that information. You don't want to be the hole in the chart. So if you could make sure and complete that, that would be appreciated as well. And just a reminder, this is what that form looks like, the Section A tool. And then the other reminder is that for your GEPRA, you literally only include one thing, the actual ratio, versus for your project measures, you want to do the target, your goal ratio, and your actual. Okay, so really important as far as the data you're sending in, that you send that in correctly. And then this third bullet is particularly important. If you're including updated quantitative data, then you of course want to include an updated explanation of progress, that narrative information. Don't leave that out, because that one little number only tells a small portion of your story. Your explanation of progress is what really gives us the full idea of what's going on. Okay, so make sure that you've got both the quantitative and the narrative. Any APR update questions, you're welcome to unmute and ask or pop it in the chat. And if you think of one later, you're welcome to ask later as well. All right, so let's move to the second thing you have due. So that's the one due on October 27th. But we have some budget things coming up due November 17th. So as Bianca stated, your GAN, your grant award notification for year 3, is in G5 currently. The only person that can access that for you is your project director of record. So if you are not the project director of record, you're going to have to ask that person to download that GAN so that you can see it. You want to really carefully read it and make sure that the project director is correct. If you need to make updates or changes to that, we can help walk you through that process, but you will need to send information directly to Bianca to get that changed. Make sure that you look at your award amount. Like Bianca said, they were really, really kind and lenient in cuts this year, but that doesn't mean there weren't some cuts. Okay, so you may think you got $500,000, but when you look, you may have only gotten $450,000. You want to make sure that you're building your budget off how much money you were truly awarded versus building your budget off how much you think you were awarded. Double check it. Look at that GAN and make sure you know exactly how much you were awarded for year 3. And then finally, the last thing to look for is to look and see if you have any restrictions. You know, make sure that there's not anything that you need to turn in. Maybe you have an audit due. Maybe you've been placed on quarterly reporting. There may be some restrictions in there, and you won't know unless you thoroughly read your GAN. So read through. Once you've read through, it is time to create your year 3 budget revision. Every single one of you must do a year 3 budget revision. It is not optional. Everybody has to turn in a year 3 budget revision. When you do this, you are going to be taking your carryover, which could be year 1 and definitely some year 2 monies, plus whatever you were awarded for year 3. Now, same thing here. You don't want to build your budget off of what you guess your carryover might be. You need to be building your budget off of how much money was left in G5 when you started the year. So when you transitioned from September 30 to October 1, that transitioned your year, how much money was left in G5? That's your carryover. So you need to look and see how much you had carrying over. Remember that your carryover sticks where it was at the end of the year, but through your budget revision, you can move around items and amounts of your year 3 monies. So I'm going to pop over to the form just as kind of a reminder. So you'll remember this first column here is your current performance period budget. That means your year 3 budget. Then your carryover. So that's any monies from years 1 and 2 that you're carrying over. And then the third row will auto calculate telling you your full budget for year 3, because you have all that money to use. Remember that this new total amount that you have for year 3 is still going to have to follow that 80-20 split. So sometimes the question will come up and people will say, well, I spent my 80% of year 2 direct service. It was mainly money that was in the 20% that was left. Those things, it doesn't carry over that way. When you look at your year 3 budget, it's going to have to meet overall the 80-20 split. You don't get to say, well, oh, you know, I mainly saved some of that admin money. No, year 3 budget just has to meet that 80-20 split. And remember that we've got that logic built into the spreadsheet. So you will get red colors up here and red colors across here if things are not meeting the percentages that are required of your ACE budget. Okay. So just a few little reminders like that. Oh, can't get it back to the right one. Make sure that you're using that optional budget revision form, that spreadsheet. Alani has popped it over in the chat for you if you need a copy of it again. It is super, super helpful for you to use that form because it makes it very easy for Bianca to go in and actually be able to check and approve your budget. Those are due Wednesday, November 17th. Again, not ever bad to turn it in early. The sooner you get it in, the sooner Bianca can approve it for you. Typically, if you wait till November 17th, there's a group of you that turn it in that day. And so then it takes a minute for her to work through those. So this is one of those early bird opportunities that the sooner the better on getting those turned in. The other part of it that you can do even through this budget revision is your service provider list update. All of you are required to submit an updated service provider list. You can do this in your budget revision because remember the first tab of that budget revision spreadsheet is a service provider list. So you can update it there. And then when you send it in, just let Bianca know, hey, I've included my updated service provider list in my budget revision. Or if you would prefer to provide a separate list, you are welcome to do that as well. Either one is totally fine, but that is something that you do need to send in. And remember that as you have changes to your service providers throughout the year, you'll need to update that list and send it in. So just to kind of review, you'll have the form, it's in the chat box, and I know many of you have it already, but just a reminder, don't use the one from last year that has all the year 2 stuff. You'll notice this one has all of your year 3 stuff. It's the same one I shared with you back in September, but if you need it, it's right there in the chat. So you've got your service provider list. Remember, anything in red is where you will be typing. Things in blue auto calculate. Okay. And it basically follows the same here. So for this one, anything in red, that's where you can type. Things in blue and green auto populate. Blue being your existing budget, green being what you want your budget to be, your revised budget. And then final reminder on the budget revision is, while all of these numbers are really important, ultimately the most important part is this column right here, which is your explanation. If you are making any changes to your budget, you should have words in this column explaining why you're making that change. If you choose not to put in an explanation or to put in a very, very brief explanation, odds are Bianca's going to have to reach out to you for more information, and it's going to slow down the process of you getting your approval. Those cells expand, so you can type as much as you need in there to be able to provide a true justification for why you want to change up your budget the way that you do. The better your explanations, the more likely your budget is to be approved and quickly approved so that you can move on with the good part, implementing with your kids. Okay, so there's my PSA on do the narrative part, super important. Now, like I said, those are due November 17th, But do remember, we have lots of help available for you. If you have any questions, whether it's about how to set up your budget, what you can do with your budget, if you need ideas for how to help spend down some of your funds that you're carrying over, if you just want someone to walk you through the form, or you want to review your budget revision before you send it in, reach out to us. That's what we're here for at the TA team. So you've got our email address there, the oie@seiservices.com. And then we also have our coaching session link where you can go on Calendly and just self-schedule a coaching session. We are happy to help. Much better to ask for assistance and turn in a really nice budget than to guess or not do it. And then you're just prolonging the budget misery. Okay, ask for help. We are here to help, and we'll get that budget all squared away. And then again, you can just get back to implementing. Any budget revision questions or service provider list update questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
So should we hold off on allowing the families to request services until after the budget's approved?
No, so you don't have to wait for that.
Okay,
Primarily what you need to think about as far as with the budget revision, what you can and can't do, you can move forward with any of the things that were in your existing budget. But anything that you're asking to be added or changed, those you would need to wait until after you get approval. But all of those things in your existing budget, you can go ahead and begin expending.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I think Dara had the exact same question. So we knocked out 2 with 1. Yeah, you're always welcome.
Hey
to
there,
submit
can you
budget.
all hear me? My internet is going in and out.
Yeah,
Oops.
it's got a little fun thing on the end of it, but we can hear you.
Yeah, it was a little funky. I'm sorry about that. And I might have missed the response to the previous question, so I apologize if this is redundant. So I guess I'm a little confused about the service provider update. I asked this question last time, but I wasn't really sure that I asked it the right way.
Yeah.
So we've been having ACE talking circles with our family members across our network schools. And as we're thinking about moving into year 3, so that the family liaisons and myself can support creating these proposals for programs that will be implemented in year 3. And we knew to wait until we got the GAN, in which we have now. So that means that even though we'll be bringing back some service providers from year 2, we're going to have a whole lot more like new service providers across our 5, 6 project schools. But we haven't yet done that logistical work yet, right? We're not signing contracts with them yet. So they're not like officially, I should turn on my camera, I'm sorry, officially service providers. But since that service provider list is due, if we haven't started or executed a contract with them, do we still put their information in that service provider list, even though they're not yet? Because I also feel like sometimes service providers are like, yes, we're going to do it, and something happens, they move away or whatever, and then they don't end up being a program provider. So do we just go ahead and still fill it in based on our proposals and how we're vetting these potential service providers? Does that make sense? Even though
Yeah.
we submit it and they don't become a service provider for whatever reason, and revise it?
Yeah, so you can revise and update it as you go. So, my suggestion would be,
Okay.
if your plan is that you're contracting with this person, go ahead and include them, because that is what your
Mhm.
intent is. If the kids don't end up signing up for it, and so you don't end up holding it, you can take them
Mhm.
back off your list.
Okay.
Because that was your plan. That's what you were trying to do. You intended to have them as a service provider. Nobody signed up. Now, if it's a matter of, we don't know yet who's going to do this, or, we're putting out an RFP and we don't know who will respond. Once you know who those service providers will be, you can always then add them to your list. So it's not like, oh, I turned in my list to Bianca in October and then I'm stuck with these service providers all year. No, that's why we kind of denote back
Right.
that they need to be updated throughout the year, because you're gonna have those changes. So just keep her updated.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you for clarifying that. I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did have a school lead. We hosted a talking circle there with the family. We got our data, our survey question, and recorded the discussion, and they were interested in possibly working with some service providers who are under 18. Is that allowable?
Bianca, you may know better than me. I don't think that that's unallowable, but
Yeah, we don't have any restrictions on who your service provider is, but we
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to like build capacity of a service provider. But if there is like a teen or youth that is able to provide a service that's already up and going, I don't know if they're like teaching like a cultural class, maybe they're like a beater
Yeah.
or something, or maybe they're like
Yeah,
a
most
really good
definitely. And
tutor,
Mhm.
or I don't know what service would work, but I don't think we would limit it. I just think that it would have to already be something that's established, and we're not, creating them as a service provider.
That makes sense. And we have this up and running program at our one of our schools out in Denver. It's called the Wakashka program, and it's been very robust this last year. And so this would be these youth knowledge keepers coming in, and it's already framed by these
Oh, you're
service
breaking up a
providers
little
that
bit.
run the program, and funded by states. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening with our internet. We're having a bunch of folks visiting us today in the office. Maybe it's
Too many
sucking up all the
people.
internet energy. I'm sorry. Yeah, online right now. So yeah, the youth service providers would be supported by a program that's already very robust and run by adult service providers.
So really you'd be paying the organization.
So I didn't see anything less like in the grant narrative. Darn, I don't, the
Yeah,
internet.
I'm so sorry. I feel like sometimes we're talking over you because we don't know, we can't always hear. I was just saying, it sounds like maybe you're gonna be paying the organization and then they're gonna be paying the students. Oh, I think we lost her.
Yeah, the organization, meaning one of our project schools. We have a contract with one of, sorry, lo siento, so sorry. I don't know what's up with the internet.
No, it is okay. At least based off of what you were saying, I think Bianca and I were saying that it seems like it would be okay. We can't, if it was a matter of you're trying to train up the students as tutors, or you're trying to train them up to, be in these roles. But if it's a matter of, this organization is who you're contracting with and they're using the student workers, or like Bianca was explaining, like if one of the students is a local dance instructor, they're 17 and they're the dance instructor for the elementary kids, things like that shouldn't be a dilemma. Yeah, they happen to be youth and under 18. So yeah, that's the big thing there is just, that capacity building. You can't train them up, but using them shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
All right, sorry about the connection issues. And then I see Rusty and Dara asking about G5. So saying, I need some assistance on G5, figuring out what it shows we have left over, or is this something my accountant should be able to tell me? And then about the view only and learning more to bridge the conversations with the finance office. So there's a couple of parts to that one.
Mhm.
Yes, G5 is a real pain. So I will just back you up that yes, it is not the most user-friendly, but there are a couple of ways that you can get the information you need. One is whoever does your drawdowns, typically someone in your budget or fiscal office, can see that information and can pull that report for you as far as these are the drawdowns that were done for what amounts on what dates. They can pull that for you and should be tracking that as your fiscal person in general. I know sometimes getting that information from them is easier said than done. So there is also the view only route, which is a form that you can get filled out and you submit to G5, and it gives you view-only access to the budget. So you're not able to do drawdowns. You're not going to be able to mess anything up on the financial end, which I know is always the concern that, oh, if we let you in there, you're going to accidentally draw down money, or you're going to accidentally give back money. You're going to accidentally do something you're not supposed to do. This only lets you look. You can look, you can't touch. Okay. That way you can see, okay, this is when drawdowns were done and for how much, so that you constantly are aware. This can be super, super helpful because ultimately, it doesn't matter who does your drawdowns. Ultimately, you as the project director are the one responsible for this grant budget. So you need to know that drawdowns are happening. You need to know how much money has truly been drawn down. Because for instance, we'll have grantees who have $500,000 for a year. And they're thinking, I'm doing a great job. I'm doing all these activities. I've spent, according to my local records, about $400,000 of the money in August. What they don't realize is that maybe drawdowns have not been occurring the way they should, and maybe only $50,000 has been drawn down. Well, then in the eyes of the Department of Ed and in the eyes of OIE, you've only spent $50,000. It doesn't matter what you've expended locally. It only matters what you've drawn down. So then you get into that dilemma that Bianca was talking about earlier, where you have this huge amount left and you could be at risk for having cuts because it's all based on what you've drawn down. So if you have that view only access though, you would be checking in and you'd realize, why has there only been one drawdown this year? Or why have we only drawn down $2,000 and it's May? Okay, so it's a really good way to be able to just keep track of that yourself, because ultimately the project director is responsible for the budget. So while you need to work hand in hand with your fiscal people, push come to shove, you're going to be held responsible for what is and is not happening with that money. And then the final thing is, if you need help in G5, just figuring out like where to look, you're like, I think I do have G5 view only access, but I don't know where to go to do the viewing. We can help walk you through that. So we can set up a time and actually get on Zoom together and walk through where everything is in G5 to be able to find that. But that's definitely super, super helpful if you're able to get that view only access. And it's also why we encourage that you have your fiscal staff attend these talking circles with you, because that way they know what's being expected of the grant budget and what's being expected of you in regards to the budget. So that then when you go to them and say, oh, it's budget revision time, they know what that means in regards to this budget. They're not going, you don't need to do revision, your budget's fine. They know, no, it's something that's required. They know what type of form you're having to fill out so that everybody's on the same page. So if you need us to add them to the calendar invites and things, we're happy to do that. Just send us their name and email address and we can add them. And if that does not answer all of the G5 question you had, Rusty and Dara, just let me know. Paiwa asking about peer tutors. Would that be okay for high school students? So I think it's going to be the same kind of dilemma that we were talking about with Jessica. Like, if this is a student who's already offering calculus tutoring and is amazing at calculus, that should be fine. If you're going to have to train them in how to tutor, and if you're going to have to help them get set up, then you're building their capacity. So then that's what becomes kind of the dilemma. But if it's a matter of they're already, ready to roll as a tutor, then that should be okay. I mean, they're going to have to be on a contract like everybody else.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing too, is like, hopefully they're capable of having a independent contractor to be a service provider. And they would also, every service provider needs their own service provider agreement. So unless it's like, I think what was mentioned before, like it's a program that has youth or students working it, and then you'll be paying that program, and then the students will receive, their funds that way. those individuals would need to have their own service provider if they're not already a part of an organization.
And then Jessica says she has just one more question. So, and Jessica, you're allowed to have all the more questions you would like. So one of the project schools asked if it was allowable for ACE to do programming during school hours, a language and culture class, but the ACE students would register for it as an elective class. Basically, the ACE funding would go to support pay the fee of the language arts and culture service provider to teach the program during the school day during school hours. So that is allowable, but here's some big considerations. If that's how it's being set up and it's being paid for with ACE funding, it still has to be paid for on that per student basis. So you can sometimes run into the pickle that if you're paying for a teacher, you may be paying for just their 5th period class, and you can only pay on a per student basis. So if only 5 kids end up signing up for that, does that cover enough of their salary that then the school can pay the other portion the way they're supposed to? Everybody in that class would need to have signed up for it. Otherwise, again, you run into the issue of part of their salary would have to then be paid by other funds. So just really making sure that it's still on that per student cost basis, contractual basis, so that we're paying for it the quote unquote ACE way, versus just, oh, we're going to pay a teacher to go do this for however many kids happen to sign up for it.
And also with that too, we have the supplement, not supplant. So if it's like a class that's already being offered by the school district, we wouldn't be able to use the ACE funding for it. So, adding a new, language class or cultural class that's not already in the school would definitely be allowable. You can provide ACE services during the school hours, but like Sarah was saying, you would still need to have it as something that the student's selecting through ACE and a per student cost for it.
All right. And then, does G5 view only access have limited areas to view, or can you see all reports previously submitted? So yes, it's just limited areas in that it's only the budget. Because I'm guessing, Karen, maybe you're thinking about the APRs and you won't be able to see the APRs. You're only able to see the budget info, but yes, you would be able to see like previous drawdowns. So like if you got your view only access starting October 1st, you would be able to see, the drawdowns that happened before that on that particular project, but you can't see anything other than the budget info. All right, I think we went through all the questions, but if I missed any, or if you have any others, just let me know.
Hi, Shanna.
Hi.
So I have a kind of building on that language question. So in our grant, in the grant, and I know you did the whole explanation about being clear about if you're gonna make any kind of change, right? So I got that part. Where I'm from, we are the Chippewa Cree people, and we primarily speak and teach Cree along with our culture.
Right.
So now there's a whole almost movement, I guess you'd say, within our community. Our want also is that, and it's really big in one school, is to start teaching Chippewa language also.
Okay.
So would I have to include that as the whole writing, or since it's already kind of part of the Chippewa Cree people? Can I just, because there's been a big question and want from people that they want that to come in also in one school that we help. Do I have to include that in this year's report, or just the service provider and per student?
So I
and
think you would include that service provider and
Okay.
denote that, it's the Chippewa language instead of
Okay.
previously you've been doing the Cree language. But as far as allowability, that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, I was just interested in the way she was it was working out and
Yeah.
the explanation, so Thank you.
Yeah, so you'll include it in that service provider, but yeah, it shouldn't be a dilemma.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads us, some of these things we're talking about perfectly into a discussion around program services. So I'm going to actually go a little bit out of order because we're going to be talking about your program services, what program services are working well for you, which ones maybe have not worked as well for you. And we're going to be doing a little bit of sharing about what other folks are doing in their ACE programs. And so in that vein, let's kick off with just a little sharing from one of your fellow ACE grantees. So this is a video from Omaha Nation Public Schools. We actually just shared this at NIEA, but I know most of you were not in the room for that, so you did not get to partake in this. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for you to get to see some of what they've been doing in their program. So I'm going to stop this share so that I can go over and actually show you this video. Maybe. Okay, here we go. And my speakers have been a little wonky lately, so if y'all have any trouble hearing this, please give me a heads up.
We're gonna go down and we're gonna be picking some things. We'll go down that way and look and see what's ready for us, okay? And these are sweet potatoes. They're not ready yet. They got beautiful flowers. Yep, this is the path right here. There you go. This is all for you. You know, we're doing this so you guys can learn how to grow things so that, well, you wouldn't have to travel 40 minutes to the grocery store if you could get everything you wanted right here, right?
Oh my God. We got probably about 40, 50 pounds already, you guys. There's quite a few under there. Keep going. Can't just get them all out.
Wherever we go, there's always going to be something exciting that we don't know anything about. And, you know, especially when you're outside. When you're outside, there's so much to learn.
Watch for the puddle.
Round the puddle. You can walk on the wood chips. It's okay.
I thought they were gonna be little here.
That's where we're going to gather when we gather in big groups. Find a seat. Remember, we find a leaf on the rug. Any leaf you want.
All right, class, we're gonna start today by doing our spirit calling song. So everybody wanna hold your hand out and I'll pass out the sage. So when you roll that sage up into a ball, give it a smell. You're smelling the spirit of the plant. We sing a song. You guys, you sing with me, okay? Oh, yeah,
I'm absolutely thrilled about what the school's doing. Just being able to teach about all the things that surround us, our water, our land, all of that, you know, how to protect it, how to become stewards of our lands. These are all important things that we need to teach our children. We have our new outdoor classroom. That's a real opportunity for our young ones to start learning about planting and things like that too.
There's mushrooms right there. what we're looking for underneath of the leaves, if you're very careful, just tip them up. You might see a little white egg underneath them. Look, feel this one, or this one, some of these little ones.
Does it smell good?
Feel how soft they
God, they are like a little tiny blanket.
aren't they? They're really nice.
That is a mullein plant. It's medicine for like when you're sick and you have a cold. Our ancestors used to use it when they were sick. But it's like an old grandpa. Say, thank you, grandpa, for giving us medicine. Traditionally, our elders and our ancestors, they dried food after we have the harvest. They would dry food and they would spend probably a good month or so drying the food and preparing it for winter so it will last them through the whole winter. But because of modern day, we have something like this. It's called a food dehydrator. And you remember how those big those squash were? After I dehydrated it, look how small they got. The squash. That squash. Who likes to eat squash? Anybody? See, traditionally, this would be part of our diet. We would eat this all the time. But because of what happened to us in the past, and we lost our food sovereignty and our food systems, remember we talk about that all the time? And the food that we eat now, it makes us sick. So part of this class and part of teaching you guys is that we try to get this food, this healthy food that we've grown on Umaha land by Umaha people back into our diet so that we can be healthy and happy and live a good life and be strong. And we can live a long time. So I don't know, you guys, who's brave enough to try to taste one? Okay, come on. You don't have to just taste it. Hi, Mr. Reza.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? Good? Good day today?
This is our fourth grade class, and they helped harvest a lot of the vegetables. We had fun, didn't you guys? So they have
Wonderful.
questions about what's happening with the vegetables now.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for harvesting all those beautiful cucumbers and all these vegetables. And what we're doing here today is we're setting up a farmer's market.
How much are the cucumbers gonna be?
The cucumbers are 2 for $1. Is that a good price? Is that fair?
Yeah.
You know what? We don't want to price our vegetables so high that the community says, no, I don't want to buy those. That's too expensive. We want to make it affordable for everybody. $6.
Okay, thank you so much.
And so, you know, one of our goals is to grow our food and then serve it in the school kitchen on the salad bar. You know what we've been doing? We've been taking vegetables every week up to the senior center and giving to the senior center. And they are so appreciative of being able to have fresh, organic vegetables. Oh, you're welcome. As a school, as a team, we're working on this garden project together.
The kindergarten planted this corn, the kindergarten class last year. And then over the summer, the high school students planted the beans and the pumpkins and the squash out here. And we harvested the Indian corn.
First thing we look for is the silk and the silk to turn brown, but look, this has no silk coming out of the chocolate. Come up here so you can see.
Over there.
You saw one with the brown silk? Okay, but this is what those grasshoppers are doing. Each one of these pieces of silk connects to a piece of corn. Now see, oh, look, go ahead, break it off. Can you break that? Yep, break it off, twist it, good. Now we're gonna open it up and show us what's in farther down. Yeah, see, this is the blue corn. So because the silk was gone from the top, these didn't get fertilized, but look, we've got all that.
Are you still good?
Okay, it's still good. We can still boil it. We can still spoon it off and save it for corn soup.
What we're doing is, this is some corn I grew. I planted this corn last spring. I harvested it recently. I brought it into the school and the kids have already prepared it, taken it off the the cob. And this is a traditional way that our people did the corn, you know. Nowadays, they have big fans and they blow it like that. But what we relied on was the wind. So we would have purposely chose a windy day to do this. Eventually, after this dries some more, Grandma's going to make a dish, a traditional dish called washonge. It's like a corn mush dish. And when she makes that, we'll come and get you guys so you can help make it. Yeah, and then we'll eat it. It's a real prized food. Not too many people make it these days, so.
When we start something, Grandpa Rufus was out here and he blessed the 4 directions. When we harvested, we took a basket of food. It had Indian corn, and we presented it to Grandpa Rufus, Grandma Pat, and Grandpa Clifford this morning.
On behalf of the staff and the students, we want to express our appreciation for all the wonderful, beautiful teachings that you provided us. And the prayers that you provided made this possible, made a bountiful harvest.
We're honoring you today for helping us. You came and made a prayer for us in the spring before we started planting. And we had a wonderful, wonderful season. The students learned a lot. And I had a lot of personal growth, respecting Mother Nature, respecting the teachers. I want to honor you and thank you for being our wisdom keepers and being here for us. Anytime we have a question, you're always there for us. This is one baby step for us in reclaiming our food sovereignty and our food systems back. We're looking forward to next year. Let's walk down this way. Say where Pogón says that. Come on, you guys, keep walking. At one time, the Omaha people didn't know poverty. They didn't know hunger. They lived with the land and they sustained themselves from the land. And it was a big part of their culture. And you know that it is because they have a harvest celebration for 4 days to just celebrate the fact that they receive so much from the land and just give their thanks, to come together and celebrate that. So we get to be a part of the celebration, and it's wonderful.
Boilers? Yeah. They need those boilers.
People are so excited and happy to see that we're doing something like this, you know, fulfilling a need that we have in our community. This food was grown on Omaha land by Omaha people, and now it's in the back. And it's a dream come true for me, you know.
Today, I thank the Omaha Nation School for giving me this honor to pray for Wakanda. I ask you to bless each one of that food, the harvest, the garden food, so that we can all be nourished. To Wakanda, Matega, we behold.
Omaha people have this whole reservation here and lots of land. And I would like to see the children, this generation, to grow up and to bring it to fruition where they're creating and growing their own food and making their own economy from it, you know, so that they, our struggles for the past 7 generations is the next 7 generations will have hope and happiness in this land, you know. And did I say the American dream? Well, we haven't really realized that yet, but we're working towards it.
right, and I'll grab that link in case anybody wants that to the video.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone from Umahan is on, but I love their video and their food sovereignty track that their students are able to select and participate in. And you just see so much that's brought into it, right? You can see a career being offered, you can see the culture being added, you see the multi-generational teachings and traditional teachings. And it's just super powerful to, you know, have them reclaim their land and food and have the students be a part of that.
Yeah, and they've done such a great job of showcasing it in the video as well, to give us all a little peek. So now that you've hopefully had a nice view into one of your fellow programs, we want to get a little view into your program. So we have a couple of questions that we're hoping you will humor us with in a little survey. So I'm going to pop it up here on the screen, and I'll leave us in this screen instead of in our PowerPoint screen, because I think sometimes it's a little easier to answer the polls if we're in this view versus the PowerPoint view. But we're just going to be looking at, and there's no right or wrong answers on these, it's just to help us facilitate conversation between grantees. But what service that you are currently offering or offered in the past has been most popular? What's been your second most popular? So those top two. What's been least popular? What just really has not, and least popular does not mean unsuccessful, just had the least number of students signing up. What service, if any, do you really want to offer to your students, but you just haven't been able to yet? And what's been in the way? Can you not find an instructor? Do you not have enough student interest to get it going? Is it too expensive? Kind of what's that barrier? And then finally, what service just hasn't had the student response that you anticipated or wanted? You really thought it was going to have a great student response, and it didn't work out the way you thought. And if any of those don't apply to you, you're like, every service we've had has had an amazing student response. I don't have an answer for number 5. None of these are required. Like I said, we're just to help us facilitate some discussion around services, some things that your fellow grantees have been curious about. So take a moment to fill those in. Should have gotten us some thinking music for this as everybody was filling in their survey. I will not be singing. That would not be thinking music. That would be get off the call music. And if for any reason the poll isn't showing up for you, you're also welcome to share in the chat. If you're on a mobile device, sometimes you have to kind of thumb over to get to the polls. All right, and I see more answers coming in. I know these are not the simple, like click and answer, move on kind of polls that we sometimes do. So I appreciate you taking the time to actually think these over, type in some responses, share with us. And while you're working on the polls, I was also reading through the chat. Karen, I love that you're now the slackers because you didn't have a garden last year. I'll join you. I am a slacker. I started one when the pandemic started because all of a sudden in my mind, I was able to grow things. And yeah, this last year with the baby's arrival, I'm growing nothing. All right, I'm going to give you about 1 more minute because I know I still see people typing and I don't want to cut anybody off if they're feverishly working on their poll. All right, you've got about 20 more seconds, just fair warning. So far, we've got 40% of us who have answered. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and switch us back into our PowerPoint view. Here are the 5 questions that were in your poll that everybody's responding to. And like I said, if you didn't get an opportunity to do it in the poll, we would still love to know your feedback. So feel free to pop that in the chat, but I am going to go ahead and end the poll so that we can kind of talk through some of these responses. All right. So what is your most popular service? So I can tell you some of the responses we got: ACT testing, education materials, so assisting students with school needs beyond just like basic school supplies. Something called Fields of Dreams, college and career prep and apprenticeship, which sounds very neat. Mentoring, Sylvan tutoring, school supplies, Paiute language class, student supplies, weekend events, which I'm super curious, whoever put weekend events, if you want to share in the chat, what are weekend events? Now I want to know more. Tutoring, and then Alaska Native Science and Engineering program. So lots of kind of cool things in there. I will say we saw school supplies come up 3 times in that most popular service. So just something to think about, that that seems to be of interest. And then for second most popular, Indigenous readers, Paiute language class. I'm curious if that's 2 different grantees. Counseling, regular sports, cultural activities, Navajo peacemaking ties with Unity Club, so leadership for Native youth, culture camp, sewing and Native American crafts, Alaska wilderness safety education, STEM-related student camps, and Community School of the Arts, a performing arts service. So I'll say another thread that I'm noticing is one around cultural activities as well. And then probably the third theme I'm seeing is around STEM activities. So just some sharing there around those popular activities. And then as we think about our least popular service, we've got feast protocol, architectural program, tutoring, Kabata running coach, academic tutoring through a chat box, which sounds interesting, ACT prep, driver's permit training, athletic mentoring coaching, education advisement and tutoring. So I will say the theme I'm seeing in our least popular service is tutoring. So that's kind of interesting as well. And then what service, if any, would you like to offer, but you haven't been able to yet? And then we also had the why. I know some people included that, some not as much, but wanting to offer vocational ranching service providers, language and culture camps, retreats, tutoring, college prep. Being able to offer the same services at each of our schools has been difficult because of logistics. I want to offer driver's ed. There's a lack of opportunities for students to take the driver's test, as the only testing sites in Alaska are in urban communities. That's a good point. Creation story, but the creation story can only be taught at a certain time and by certain people. Credit recovery, because all the schools who we are partnered with already offer. In-school tutors can't hire, so staffing challenges. And then we'd love to find a provider to teach native language classes. Okay, so we're going to come back to this one because I have follow-up questions, but I want to at least let everybody kind of hear the general responses. And then what service has not had the student response that you anticipated wanted? Someone said most have had the response that they wanted and expected. Others said entrepreneurship, introduction to process technology, ACT prep, dual credit, and it says huge benefit for outgoing senior students, but interestingly, the schools provide dual credits and want to take the lead in this role. Excellent benefit entering college. 9, this is another one I'm super curious. What service is 9? These are the things where I'm like, I have to know now. Dancing, a lot of families asked for it, but then not many showed up. Maybe the timing was bad. And then counseling, behavioral health. All right. So I'm going to check in the chat if we got a response to what those two are that I was super curious about. Oh, so we had, Rusty was sharing, to the person in Alaska, I had a certified DMV contractor come with me to villages on the North Slope to give driving tests. So that's a great idea. Could you have a driving instructor actually go out to the village to administer the tests? Would that be a good workaround? Could be. And he said, then when the person went to town, all they had to do was go to the DMV to get their license. So I kind of took care of everything else in advance. Good tip. Still super curious what 9 is, and still super curious what weekend events are. You're welcome to private message me if you don't want to publicly put it in the chat, but I'm dying to know. All right, but back on the others. So as we're looking at like things you want to offer, but you haven't been able to yet. So I see, some you're having some staffing issues. So things like in-school tutors. So does anybody have any things that have kind of worked well for them to be able to bridge the staffing issues that I know everybody is having when looking for tutors? Anything that's worked for you? Because yeah, everybody I talk to, you're not alone. Everybody is having staffing dilemmas. But if anybody has found creative solutions to being able to hire academic tutors. And then for native language classes, are there particular native languages that you're wanting to start out with? Because that might help us in helping connect you with some resources as well. So if there are particular languages you're targeting, let us know. We are going to be launching, hopefully in the spring, a Native American Language Resource Center through the Office of Indian Education. So that's definitely something to keep your eyes peeled for. We're going to be doing some engagement sessions with the field to see what would be most useful for us to have in that. So we'll be sending out the information for those opportunities upcoming. let's see, Mark was sharing, they had a contract in development with an online tutoring service. So yeah, that's definitely something that some folks have gone with, is using online tutors, because then you can bring them in from wherever. So that if locally there aren't folks who either have the qualifications you need or the availability you need, maybe you can find them that way. And then there were two on here that didn't really say what the barrier was, but for vocational ranching service, and then language and culture camps, retreats, tutoring, college prep. If you want to share kind of the barriers, like I said, we'd love to help facilitate some conversation around things that are working. And I'm curious with the dual credit, because I'm seeing, where did it go? Yeah, with the dual credit being able to offer it in the schools and the credit recovery being able to offer in the schools, is there sufficient amounts of credit recovery and dual enrollment being offered in the schools? And so they don't really need the additional that y'all are throwing out there? Or is it a matter of, yes, it's available through the schools, but you feel like there's still an unmet need, but maybe you're having trouble getting to the kids because it is technically primarily handled by the school? So any feedback you want to give there, again, we'd love to help you kind of think that through or share what others have done. And Shauna was sharing that she's used tutor.com. So that might be another option for folks as well. All right, and I want to share a couple, because I know we're getting close on time. So I do want to share a couple of upcoming events that we have. And then we can come back to some more discussion. That also gives you a little bit of time that if you're needing to give us maybe a little more context for your question or for what you shared, you can do that. And I also see Mark sharing, working with one of our community colleges to offer a college prep introduction to the native language program as a 1 credit course that's been developed and offered to high school students. So that's really neat. So not only are you offering a course in the native language, but they're able to get credit for it, which is really neat. Yeah, and I know some schools have been able to get high school credit for it, sometimes college credit. And that can be really helpful for students and enticing. All right, so let me just pop down and share these couple of upcoming events, and then we'll pop back, so just in case anybody has to hop. So one is we do have our annual Native American Heritage Month celebration coming up on November 15th. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you have anything going on in your program or in your community for Native American Heritage Month, we would love to know about it. You're welcome to share it with us, here in the chat if you have time right now, or shoot it to us via email. But we would love to know what you're doing locally to celebrate. And then Alani has shared in the chat the registration link for you to be able to register for OIE's celebration on November 15th. At that event on November 15th, we are going to be launching the student artist competition for this year. So, we used to do through the Office of Indian Ed a student artist competition for many years. It went away for a number of years and it came back last spring. So this will be the second year of this newly revamped student artist competition. We are opening it up a little earlier in the year so that students have a little longer to work on their submissions. So we will be announcing the official opening of that competition and revealing this year's theme as part of the Native American Heritage Month celebration. It is open to any student, early childhood, all the way up through 12th grade. So any of your students can participate, and they can enter in any of 3 categories. So we have an art category, and art is not just painting, drawing. It can be beadwork, it can be sewing, it can be quilting, it can be literally any type of artistic endeavor. We also have a category for writing, and so that's a personal narrative piece. And then we also have a video category. And so for the video category, we really, are encouraging students to think about incorporating culture, whether that be maybe through song, dance, however they would like to kind of incorporate that into their video, and their short videos. We're not asking for mini documentaries. So not something where students have to have really fancy video making skills. It's more just another way for them to be able to express themselves artistically. So really excited about that. Like I said, we'll be revealing the theme and all about how to register and enter that competition at our event in November. Also, just a plug to, again, remember to let us know if you've had changes in your staff or additions to your staff. We want to make sure that everybody's getting the calendar invites and the email reminders. So just send us name, role, and email address. We'll get everybody added. And a couple of important upcoming dates. So our next talking circle is actually not until the new year, like the actual new year. It will be January 12th at 3 Eastern. But before then, remember, APR updates due October 27th. We have office hours. It says September 22nd. That should be October. I apologize. I will fix that for you. Remember, office hours is your come and go event that is occurring every month. It is not required, but it is open to literally everyone. You can pop in and ask any questions you might have, or just listen in to the questions that others ask. And because it's come and go, if you can't make it right at 1 Eastern, you need to pop in closer to 2, totally fine. And then finally, your year 3 budget revision is due November 17th. So just some important updates. All right, so I see a couple of questions as we get in here. I'm going to pop up our end of event poll as I go through these questions and share contact information. Let's see, 2 questions. Is there an in-person project directors meeting this year? Good question, Natalie. There is not. So that's also really good for you to know as you're doing your budget revision. So all of you are required each year to set aside money to be able to attend an in-person project directors meeting each year. But I can guarantee you and tell you it is not in person this year. It is going to be virtual. It is going to be June 6th through 8th. And we'll get a calendar hold out for you soon, but it'll be June 6th through 8th virtually. So you can take those funds that you had set aside for that travel and move it to something else. Use it for some other great things. Second question, for those of us that our LEA has also received a new NYCP grant this year, are we supposed to participate in those December meetings? Yes. So if you are also now one of our brand new NYCP grantees, you are required to participate in that December in-person meeting. That is separate from the project director meeting. So that only applies to those of you, though, who are NYCP grantees. And we're going to have your talking circle next week, and we're going to be giving you a lot more details on that. Let's see. October 22nd is a Saturday. Oh, I didn't mean 9, I meant none. Okay. That makes sense. I was so curious. I'm like, I don't know what service 9 is, but I need to know. Inquiring minds. Yeah, let me get the right office hours date for you though, because clearly that was a typo. Office hours is on October 27th. October 27th. So I'm going to put that in the chat here. Office hours is on October 27th. All right. Now we still have a few minutes, so I want to go back. I have a super short video to share with you. So I know the last one was amazing, but a little on the longer side. This one is just as fabulous, but it's super short. So I want to share with you a little bit from Educational Service Unit 2's Cultural Connections Summer Program. So I think this one is literally about 2.5 minutes, so enjoy.
The first Cultural Connections Nyhart Center Summer Workshop was conducted on June 28th through July 1st at the John G. Nyhart Historic Center in Bancroft. 47 children participated in the workshop. Ideas and resources were recommended by a parent advisory committee. Children that participated gained knowledge and cultural experiences. Sam Kluver, Elementary Success Coordinator at Homework Community Schools, and Will Maxwell, High School Success Coordinator at Homework Community Schools, were instrumental in developing and teaching many of the sessions. They, in collaborations with Mary Ann Reynolds, Executive Director of the Nyhart Center, and Chris Stogdill, Cultural Connections Project Coordinator, helped narrow the focus and create sessions that reflected different areas of interest expressed by the parents and students. Students participated in a variety of hands-on activities that engaged them in Native American culture. Each day started with breakfast and a prayer. Students were divided into groups or activities which were broken into sessions throughout the day. One of the many highlights was the food that was prepared by Chef Anthony Warrior. The traditional lunch meals were served family style. Chef Warrior discussed nutrition and shared information about food preservation with the group. Mini Moccasins Dance Troupe, led by Teresa St. Cyr, performed. Blue St. Cyr from Ho Chunk Renaissance provided a brief description of each dance. Blue also brought other games and numbers to teach students a variety of activities. Dan Needham traveled from Bemidji, Minnesota, to share his knowledge of Native lacrosse and traditional games. Lisa Drum conducted a session on beading. A highlight for the younger students was the Buffalo Box. Ben Crawford from the Angel Decorum Museum captured their attention with his stories. Jordan Blackfish from the Angel Decorum Museum taught a group of students to make earrings. Other sessions included ribbon skirts, beading, dream catchers, virtual reality, birds of prey, and dance. I want to thank the instructors that shared their talents with the group. The success of the program was made possible by many people. The collaboration provided a meaningful experience. I look forward to future opportunities for the children.
All right, so like I said, it's a super short video, but chock full of fabulous information about their summer program. If you get our OIE newsletter, then you know they were actually featured in the newsletter that went out in August. Just sharing more about the really neat things they were able to do with the students this summer. And you'll notice that as Chris was talking about the program, he was highlighting all the different groups they had partnered with. And I think that's really one thing that I've seen with some of these programs that have been able to do really innovative things with their students is the power of partnering with other organizations and bringing in those service providers. Now, I do want to plug, you'll notice we shared with you about 2 really cool programs today. We were able to highlight these in things like the OA newsletter or at NIEA. And the reason we were able to do that is because we knew what they were doing. Don't keep your program a secret. Let us in on what you are doing with your students. I don't want to wait until we get your APR to hear about what's going on in your program. You know, if you have social media, let us know. I follow a great deal of your programs when I know where they are. When we get these types of videos and things, we're able to share those. When you have program websites. So I want to give just another plug to an easy way for you to do that, because you're always welcome to be able to send that via email. We welcome those emails, but it's also really easy to just pop it in the Padlet. Remember, I've got a little spot for all of you to share links to your social media or to your website. So for instance, Yukon Flats, they were on good grantee behavior. And after the last talking circle, they went over to the Padlet and they popped in links to their website and to their social media. And so then you can then check out what's going on in their program. And you can see this is just a little screenshot of the web page that they use for their students to be able to go on and select services. So don't keep your program a secret. Share with us what's going on. We want to highlight you. We want to feature you as well. And we want to know the neat things that you're doing with your kids and with your families. So that's just my ongoing plug to actually tell us what's happening. You'll see that Alani has posted a link over to that Padlet. And then we do have the end of event poll up right now. We're about 1 minute till the end of our time together. And I do want to make sure and end on time so that those of you who need to hop aren't missing out on anything. But I will stay on so that if any of you have any questions or want to chat about anything else, we're here and can stay on for a few minutes. But for those of you who need to hop to other activities, thanks for joining us for this talking circle. We look forward to seeing you on our next event, if nothing else, at our Native American Heritage Celebration in November, and then again for our talking circle in January. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and share about your program. We want to hear it. Thanks, everybody.